Right now, the average age of exposure is somewhere between the ages of 8 and 11.
Yeah.
So that means we need to talk to our kids ideally before they're exposed so that they have those tools and they know what to do.
So often when we talk about this subject of sexuality, there's kind of two camps that emerge. One is it's good that we talk about it as Christians. God created this in the context of marriage, the gift of intimacy. And then that other camp that is very uncomfortable. And I get that. This isn't something really you want to talk about publicly, but we need to because the world certainly is. And it's bombarding us all the time. If you don't think so, just take a ride through Las Vegas sometime, and the billboards are all over the place. In fact, Gene says, I do not ever want to take the kids through Vegas. And, we all have to approach this in a variety of ways, but hopefully, biblically, to lift up that gift that God gives us, really. You don't want your kids going into adulthood fearing sexuality. They need to know a God-given understanding of what He has created. It's a great gift in the context of marriage. Greta, welcome back.
Yeah, I'm so glad to be here again.
Yeah. When you became a parent, actually, your goal there was to, as you said in the book, to porn-proof your children. Yeah. I get that. I think the distinction here with mom and dad, it doesn't always run this way. So I want to be careful to be stereotypical, but oftentimes mom has great fear, rightfully so, about her sons and sometimes daughters stumbling into pornography. Dads may have a little different attitude toward it, but hopefully a serious one to say, okay, we got to start to deal with this. But go back to that time when you're thinking about your own children and you're thinking about porn proofing, and what did it lead to?
That desire to make sure that they never saw pornography came out of my own hurt and trauma from experiencing pornography impacting my marriage. So I think that is an important thing to understand, that many of us who really fear and just despise pornography, a lot of times that comes because we've experienced hurt from it ourselves in some way. And so that sort of drove me to this idea was, I will porn-proof these kids. They will never grow up and deal with this in their marriage or, hurt their spouses. But what I learned was that's actually not possible. Porn-proofing isn't possible because, as we were saying earlier, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when our kids are exposed to pornography. So what my husband Aaron and I decided was, how could we give our kids tools to deal with the inevitable? And instead of saying, well, porn-proof them, how could we give them tools to handle it in a better way than we were given?
You cannot build a fortress high enough to keep your kids from their friends and from other influences. So how do you adjust your spirit and your emotions as a mom or a dad to understand that is going to happen, and what are we going to do to deal with it, and use all the tools you can?
Yeah, that is such a great point. And I think that's where we really need to step up into the conversation. That's why the book is called It's Time to Talk to Your Kids About Porn, because we actually do need to have the conversation, not just have this false sense of safety that comes from, I put in all the parental controls. We've got, software on the devices that will make sure we get a notification if our kid looks at something inappropriate. That can give us this false sense of safety, like, we're secure, we did it all, brush our hands off, everybody's going to be safe. But we can't control what our kids see on other people's screens, what's happening at school or at church. It can happen anywhere. So that means we have to be able to cultivate this culture in our home where we have open conversations, because if those safety features you put in place fail, which they can, or your kid sees porn on someone else's screen and you can't talk about it with them, that's where the real problem begins, because what is that kid going to do with what has happened?
Yeah, it's so good. And that, again, in your book, you have plenty of examples of how to do that well. Focus on the Family has recommendations on different filters you could use. And, we're in on all of that. And it is helpful, but not foolproof. So go in knowing that. In your book, you give parents scripts to discuss pornography. This might be the most helpful thing because, again, it's such a clumsy topic. We have the talk. and we even call it the talk. You're suggesting this is like hundreds of mini talks. You don't save it for one big weekend, but be drip irrigating your child for building the right mentality in that child for when they come across it and how to manage it. What is your script for that first conversation? I mean, the first time that something sparks, and talking to so many parents as you have, what is the typical first conversation prompted by?
Well, I believe it actually should be prompted by not the kid's first exposure, but we want to talk to them before exposure. And right now, the average age of exposure is somewhere between the ages of 8 and 11.
Yeah.
So that means we need to talk to our kids ideally before they're exposed so that they have those tools and they know what to do. They know how to respond. And what I always encourage parents to say is something really straightforward and very short. For example, it would sound something like this. Hey, sweetheart, buddy, because we need to talk to boys and girls. I need to tell you about something called pornography. Pornography is pictures or movies of people who have no clothes on. The part of their body that would normally be covered by a swimsuit is showing. And we know we don't look at those parts of other people's bodies. Other people don't look at those parts of our bodies. So if you ever see pictures or movies like that on a screen, while you're playing a game, on your tablet, on someone else's phone or computer, I want you to stop, walk away from that thing that you're seeing, that screen, and then come find me or daddy, grandma, grandpa, someone safe, and just tell us, I think I saw pornography. Will you help me? And that opens up the doors for communications. It gives them exactly what to do, how to respond, like physical actions to get away from the thing, and then come to you and talk about it.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, and I so appreciate this. I wish I had had this kind of knowledge back when we were raising our kids. Jim, we talked about this off here. There was one day we came home from a date, and the front door was locked. And it was sort of like, well, the deadbolt is locked even. What's that about? And we came in, and one of my daughters was at the computer. It was in the family room. It had filters. We thought we were safe. That was a really awkward moment, and we kind of fumbled our way through. So you're saying get ahead of this and have the conversation early, and don't rely on all the filters, which are good, but your kids are going to be exposed. I think as we were early parents, we weren't thinking that our daughters might be exposed. It's pretty prevalent among girls.
Yeah, the number of girls who are using pornography is growing rapidly. And the pornography industry is fully aware that they've been missing out on a whole group of customers. And so they're pursuing, like in a predatory way, girls as well as boys. And so as parents, we need to talk to all of the kids about pornography.
Yeah, and as a parent, one of the things is this topic particularly doesn't bubble up. And so some parents can falsely believe that, if it's not an issue, if they're not saying anything about it, then they haven't been exposed and I don't need to say anything. It's awkward. I really don't enjoy talking about that. I think one of the other key takeaways when I read your book, it really was around that idea that don't punish them for being honest. Encourage them to come to you. Like you said a moment ago, if you see these things, come and talk to a safe adult, mom, dad, grandparents, what have you, and make sure that in that response, you're not shaming them, and it actually creates a barrier for them to come talk to you. That can be hard for many parents, and moms particularly, I think, to not react emotionally about that. And I mean, I don't have any kind of metric on that, but I think it's a high percentage that will react emotionally. And you've really got one shot at making sure this is handled well. And coach us in how to make sure that first response is one that is open, honest, loving, kind, and encouraging of remaining open as your 8, 9, 10-year-old becomes 13, 14, 15.
I always encourage moms, actually, and dads to pray in advance of this event, that the Lord and the Holy Spirit would fill them with His fruit of the Spirit, that they would be able to exhibit gentleness and kindness and patience, and in that moment where there's going to be a lot of other feelings stirred up, fear, pain, maybe even anger or disappointment, all of those things are there. But if we can pray and ask the Holy Spirit, please fill me in this moment to respond with grace and compassion when our kid is hurting, then that can be a total game changer so that our child isn't filled with shame or fear. And then we can use phrases like, I want to help you. There is hope. There is healing. This is not good for you. It's hurting you. It's hurting others. How can we help you step away from it? That's what I want to do.
And for a parent to de-escalate their own emotion around this, which is really hard.
It is.
Yeah.
Hey, allow me to interrupt for just a moment here to say how much we appreciate you watching. Now, if you find value in this content, subscribe by clicking below. It'll be a big help to us. Let's go ahead and return to the show.
You know, Greta, I appreciated your vulnerability and honesty in the book. And, you know, when you got married, you came from a Christian home, and that it sounds like it wasn't talked about much. And it came with a bit of embarrassment, maybe a little uneasiness as you got married and all those things. But creating a wonderful, healthy environment is the goal.
Yeah.
How do we do that?
Well, I think you modeled it really well by starting conversations with our kids when they're young and helping them understand that every part of their body is made by God. They're made in His image. Every part of their body is designed for a purpose. Therefore, nothing about them is bad on their body, right? God created them. And beginning with that foundation, I think helps the conversations continue so that as they grow up and you get to puberty or you have your first boyfriend or girlfriend, you're ready to get married. There's this context of, yes, God's design for your body is to one day to be intimate with your husband or your wife. And it is an incredible thing. And nothing about it is shameful or bad. And that begins just when your kids are little, openly talking about that in a non-embarrassing, non-shameful way, always pointing them back to the Creator.
Yeah. I really want my boys to walk away and walk into marriage. Walk away meaning when they, leave the home and they're developing their 20-something life and they get married, to be able to go into that with confidence that this is the good thing of God, and to help their spouses understand that as well. You talk about something I really want to spend a little bit of time on, the porn plan. And, I'm always uncomfortable just saying the word porn.
I know.
Because it's so slangy. I tend to prefer pornography. It's kind of like a medical thing, right? But the porn plan, just for the abbreviation, what is that and how do you apply it?
That always catches people's attention because they're like, whoa, that's a weird title.
I don't want to have a porn
weird
plan.
We don't want to, but we need to.
Yeah.
So the porn plan is really just equipping your kids with those tools. It's that first conversation I modeled earlier, that when your child sees pornography, they know what to do and they know to walk away and they know to talk about it. That is the most important part.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And this is a reality for you. I mean, one of your kids actually had this plan, and it kind of got activated after they were at a friend's house, right?
Yeah, it was one of my kids was watching actually the Super Bowl halftime show, so it wasn't even like full blown pornography, but it was definitely, I would say, soft porn.
Yeah, it's Las Vegas billboard.
Yes,
Same thing.
This kid knew what to do, and even more than knowing what to do in the situation, to remove themselves as much as possible, but then to talk about it afterwards was so powerful, because then I could step into the role of, you did not do anything bad, this is not your fault, and I want to help you. And then we're going to talk about it with the other siblings too, so they can engage in knowing what to do if it happens to them.
And this was in response to a Super Bowl halftime performance,
Yes.
I think?
Yeah.
Which was very suggestive.
Yes.
And your child didn't stay in the room, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
walked out, went into the kitchen to get a snack, went into the bathroom, went outside.
She was kind of going by your
trying
order.
to find places to be away from that screen.
I'm just thinking that's so awkward for a child in that moment.
That's character, though.
Yeah.
That's really good at that. How old was she at the time?
Like 11.
Yeah, boy, you get your kids doing that. That's wonderful.
Yeah, and I think that comes from this training, having the plan of what to do. And that's not just for our little kids. Like, teenagers also need to know that they don't have to look at pornography. And when we give them this plan of what to do, to walk away, that is so helpful for them.
You give parents 3 steps, and again, we're coming back to this, but I want that concrete thing for you, the viewer and the listener, because you're going, okay, this is really good. I've got an 8-year-old right now. I'm beginning to panic. But you give parents 3 steps to walk through that moment when they discover their child has looked at porn. I want to be very instructive here. Because this might be the one time that we're connecting with the parents. Walk us through those steps and give us the script that you've created in the book to help a parent get through that initial moment.
Well, if your child comes to you and tells you they've seen porn, then the first thing you can do is just really affirm the fact that they told you, that they came to you. So with affirmation, thank you for telling me. I'm so glad you told me what has happened. And then say, I'm so sorry for what you've seen. You might be feeling scared or, uncomfortable with what you've seen. I want to help you. And then lastly, to come to them if they will let you, touch them, hold them, give them a hug. That also is so important in that moment because you are showing them that there has not been a break in your relationship. You want to connect with them. And in that moment, of course, you offer help. We don't want you to look at this again. This is not good for you. Yeah. I want to help you move forward. And if you can do those things, it's so helpful for, again, establishing that foundation of connection, not broken relationship, no shame, and moving beyond this.
Let me ask you, in the other scenario where you discover your child's seen pornography, walk us through that initial conversation. I was going to say confrontation, but you don't want a confrontation.
Right. That one's harder because they haven't come to you.
It's secretive.
Yes.
Yeah.
But if you can respond in the same way, it's so powerful. So the conversation starts a little differently. Hey, I know that you've been looking at pornography or inappropriate images and movies, and I want to talk to you about it because I love you and I want something better for you. And so again, that foundation, you're not affirming that they haven't told you, but you're affirming you want to help them, that it's harmful and you want something better. And again, you might be feeling scared or uncomfortable with what you've seen, and yet it's hard for you to walk away from it. But that's what I want to do. I want to help you walk away. Dad and I want to get you help so that you can stop looking at pornography because it's harmful to you, it's harmful to others. Yeah. And then again, if you can hold them, touch them, give them that affirmation, there's no break in relationship, even though they've been hiding this from you, because you want them to know you're on their team. And even use that phrase, we're on your team. We want to help you in this thing that is really challenging.
Yeah, it's so good. I remember a conversation I had, and I don't want to embarrass either of my sons, but it happened. And I remember talking with him about being on the team. He was in sports at the time, so that was a metaphor he could relate to. So I was just saying, you're no longer in the bullpen. You're out on the field. You're playing with the big boys now. And the enemy is going to be after you. And this will be a battle that you're going to have. And you got to decide whose team you're going to play for, God's team or Satan's team. And he's got a way of twisting this good gift that God has given, but you got to figure out what team you're on. And then every day ask the Lord for the ability, the strength to be able to combat this normal desire, but to put it in the right context. Let me go back to a couple of other data points. Barna has come out with research, updated research, that shows that over half of the folks in church are looking at pornography on a regular basis. So as parents, we've got to be mindful of our own behavior, confessional to the Lord and to one another, that this is an issue. Because, we can't live as hypocrites. So we got to start with us and then be able to help our kids make those right choices. Speak to that need to walk it in a way so your kids know that you're solid yourself.
Yeah. I think there's 2 really important points there. One, yes, our kids know that we are pursuing the right path, but also they can know, if we're honest with them about mistakes in our past, that when they mess up, they can come to us. And if we instead hide our stories and we're not honest, then there could be this feeling like, well, I could never tell my mom and dad because they would never understand. And I share that because I think it's really important for parents who have walked a journey that they wish they hadn't been on, that God can use every part of our story. He doesn't waste anything. And that is empowering to know that even if you're struggling right now, if you're part of that statistic, God can change your life and then use that to change the lives of the rest of your family. I love the quote from Betsy ten Boom. She said, "There's no pit so deep that God's love is not deeper still." And I think that applies to this conversation, because pornography can be a very deep pit that we feel we could never get out of. But God's love is bigger than that.
Well, another data point, they say pornography is more addictive than cocaine. How about that one? So if you're there, get a hold of us, get help. We're here for you, and hopefully we can even suggest some local counseling that will be able to help you through that, and we'll definitely provide you with a free consultation and at least begin to address some of those issues. Lastly, you say God gave you compassion in this topic, especially in your own marriage and helping Aaron to heal, your husband. I specifically want you to speak to that woman where this is the dagger in their heart. And maybe they had issues as a teen girl. Maybe abuse has occurred. There's something there that created a deep-rooted fear in this area. And then here it comes. Your own son or your own daughter is being pulled into this. It could be the biggest betrayal that a mom particularly, but also dads, the biggest betrayal that they can experience in life. And they've done everything. They've put the filters on. They've done the drip irrigation talks. They've done everything they can do. And Lord, why would you allow this to happen to my son, to my daughter? And poof, we're off to the races now, emotionally. Speak to that mom and, what do I do to get a better sense of how to go forward?
Well, I would say, number one, your hurt and the sadness and the pain, all of those things that you're feeling are absolutely understandable. And it is a deep wound. And it can feel like betrayal, again, especially if you've already experienced that, from another person who's betrayed you in this area. And so those feelings are real. But I would offer hope, for my own story. I never wanted to be the lady that talked about pornography. I never wanted to write a book about pornography.
You're the school teacher.
Yeah, I'm a mom. I'm a homeschool mom. I love books. I love hiking and, having fun. And this is not a fun topic, but God can, like I said earlier, God doesn't waste a thing. He can use your story, your pain, to not only transform your life, which is the case for Aaron and I in our marriage and now with our kids, but also you don't know how he'll use it to help others. And so we can trust him with our pain. We can say, this hurts so much. I wish it never happened. God, will you use our story for good? And he will.
What a great resource, Greta. Thank you for coming on and talking about that difficult topic as we have today. But if you're in that spot, if you have, single-digit age kids, 8, 9, 10, the time is now for you to get a copy of Greta's book. It's time to talk to your kids about porn. Do that in such a way that you help the ministry here. If you can make a gift of any amount, $10, we'll send you the book as our way of saying thank you for being part of the ministry. If you could do it monthly, that really helps. Gene and I support Focus that way. You and Dina do the same.
We do as well.
And that way we can do ministry together, saving marriages, helping parents, saving a baby's life, helping foster care adoption, all kinds of things. And you also get a wonderful resource to help your parenting journey be the best it can be.
Yeah, join the support team today with a donation of any amount when you call 800, the letter A and the word family, or stop by the description below. We've got the link to donate and get a copy of this terrific book. And Jim mentioned counseling just a moment ago. We'd be happy to set up a time for a counselor to call you back. We have a terrific team of caring Christian counselors. It'd be a privilege for us to work with you and to have that free consultation. You just need to call us, 800, the letter A, and the word family. On behalf of the entire team, thanks for joining us today for Focus on the Family with Jim Daly. I'm John Fuller, inviting you back next time as we once again help you and your family thrive in Christ.